Happy Easter Sunday, and welcome to Southern Gospel Sissy. I'm Justin Ryan. You see, Easter has always carried a strange kind of music in my own life. Not just the triumphant songs we sang in church growing up, those big swelling choruses about the empty tomb and the stone rolled away. Not those. I'm talking about the quieter music that happens in a life after you've walked through loss, rejection, and resurrection of your own. And this week I kept coming back to one of the most honest gospel songs ever written, My Tribute by Andre Crouch. See, Andre wasn't just a giant in gospel music. He was part of a whole community of artists who were stretching faith beyond the boxes that people had built for it. He was even friends with Marcia Stevens Pino. Yes, our Marcia, who wrote For Those Tears I Died and founded Children of the Day. And what I love about that connection is this. Even back then, God was already weaving together people who lived on the edges of church culture, people who didn't quite fit in, people who were changing the sound of faith. See, that's the thing about resurrection. It almost never happens at the center of power. It happens on the margins. The first witnesses to Easter weren't bishops or politicians or religious elites. They were women who had already been dismissed by society. Luke writes, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen." That message didn't start in the sanctuary. It started outside the system. And if you've ever lived your life in between worlds, too queer for some churches, too churchy for some spaces, too honest for systems that prefer performance, you start to recognize something about the whole resurrection story. God keeps choosing the margins. Peter eventually figured this out in the book of Acts. After years of believing God only worked through certain people, certain cultures, certain religious structures, he finally stood up and said, "I truly understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable." That realization changed the entire trajectory of Christianity, because Easter wasn't just about Jesus getting out of a tomb. It was about God blowing the doors off the idea that only certain people belong. That's why songs like My Tribute hit so deeply for people like me. Because when you've lived through things, losing the love of your life, surviving trauma, questioning whether the church has room for someone like you, gratitude stops being polite religion. It becomes your survival. Andre Crouch didn't write a song full of theological arguments. He wrote a song that basically says, I don't even have the words to explain what God has done for me. And that kind of gratitude is deeply Easter-shaped. Because resurrection gratitude doesn't come from people whose lives were easy. It comes from people who know what that tomb felt like. The prophet Joel once spoke about a day when God's Spirit would break every boundary that people had built. "I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy." Not just the approved voices, not just the respectable ones. God's Spirit spilling over onto all flesh. And when that happens, resurrection starts showing up in places religion never expected. See, Jesus himself hinted at that wider kingdom when he said, "Other sheep I have that are not of this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice." In other words, the resurrection keeps widening the circle. So this Easter, as someone who has spent most of my life standing on the edges of church culture, I find myself understanding Andre Crouch's song more than ever. Because when you've survived things that should have buried you, when love shows up again in your life, when healing slowly begins where pain once lived, when God keeps making a way for your voice and your story, you start realizing something. Resurrection isn't just a story from 2,000 years ago. It's something that God keeps doing in queer lives, in broken communities, in the places religion forgot to look. And if I have any tribute to offer this Easter, it's simply this. The stone didn't just roll away from Jesus' tomb. It rolled away from every life the world thought was finished. Happy Sunday. I say thanks for the things that you have done for me. Things so undeserved, but yet you give to prove your love for me. The voices of a million angels could not express my gratitude. All that I am and ever hope to be, I owe it all to thee. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the things you have done. With your love, you have saved me. With your power, you have raised me. To God be the glory for the things you have done. Just let me live my life. Let it be pleasing